Puro ibang tao na lamang ba ang iyong iniisip? Paano mo maibibigay ang bagay na wala ka?
Your life is in your hands. Feel it beating. It's fate you decide, but the choice is you made. So take care where you go. Be aware of what you do. Your life is in your hands. Give your heart to the Lord. He will take care of it. Your tears, your fears, your emotional gifts. In His hands you are sure. You can count on His words. Give your heart to the Lord. If your heart has been broken too many times and life is so bad, you just want it to end, it's time for you to send a word up to heaven, putting your life in His hands. Give your heart to the Lord. He will take care of it. Your tears, your fears, your emotional gifts. In His hands you are sure. You can count on His words. Give your heart to the Lord. God is the answer. He's all that you need. He will hear you. He is near. Give your heart to the Lord. He will take care of it. Your tears, your fears, your emotional cares. In His hands you are sure. You can count on His words. Give your heart to the Lord. Give your heart to the Lord. He will take care of it. Your tears, your fears, your emotional cares. In His hands you are sure. You can count on His words. Give your heart to the Lord. Give your heart to the Lord.
Magandang gabi sa inyong lahat, mga minamahal na manonood. Welcome pong muli sa ating series na Life After Loss, Single Moms Facing Challenges with Confidence. Kagabi ay atin pong natutunan kung paano bilang isang ina ay itaguyod ang ating pamilya ng mag-isa. Napaka-strong po talaga natin mga magulang, no? At tunay nga po na sa tulong ng Panginoon ay kakayanin natin ang bawat pagsubok sa araw-araw. Ngayong gabi ay ating matutunghayan ang isang topic kung saan napakahalaga para sa ating sarili. Ang topic for tonight is able ways to take care of you. Ma'am Ruth, meron po tayong dalawang katanungan mula sa ating mga manonood. Ang unang katanungan po ay nais nilang malaman, bilang mga anak, ano po ang ating maaaring maitulong or role natin sa ating mga magulang na nag-iisa na lamang po. At ang pangalawa pong katanungan ay kung darating po sa ating buhay na bubuksan po natin muli ang ating puso para magkaroon ng isang bagong relasyon, ano po ang proseso na maaari nating dapat na sundin? Maraming salamat po, Sister Ruth.
Hello, everyone. I am glad to be here again. This is our last episode, and I am so happy that we were able to do this thing. And before we continue, I believe there is a question that was given to me, and hopefully I can answer this question. The first one came from a student, and the question is, how can I help my mother in whatever you are doing at home or whatever? The question is, how can this student be of help to the mother? I think that is a wonderful attitude, and I'm actually very happy to hear that, because usually a lot of times kids are probably have their own activities, and yet here you are. So I really commend you, whoever brought this question. I commend you for thinking. That is so thoughtful and so kind, and that means you really have a good heart. Well, if you already are a college student, then you know what? There are so many things that you can do. And then a lot of it is probably pretty much common sense. And if there is anything that your mother will probably be glad, is that let her be proud of you. So the way you can help your mother is just really making ways that you're not going to be a problem to her, right? Because if you're going to give her a problem, then you're not helping. So try your very best to do very well in your studies, be a good student and be a good child, be thoughtful, and try to do as much as you can when you can to be a help. Whatever, I don't know your situation. At this point in your life, you know what to do. So I think I cannot even tell you what specifics, because like I said, the first thing I think that you should be thinking about is how to make your mother not worry about you. And so common sense, staying close to God and pray for your mother, because she needs it. And as much as she prays for you. So I think that's, with that, just bear that in mind. Do not make your mother worry about you. That's already a very big help, I think. Okay, so whatever you can do, and at home when you are there, you cook, you do the laundry, you help, tell your mother to take a nap and do the work instead of her or whatever. And then sometimes at this point, at this age, I think you are now able to communicate in a more mature way, and then maybe you can talk about things that otherwise she probably wouldn't have talked to you about, her situation or her life, her hurt, her frustrations, if you were still, let's say, 10 years old. But at a college level, you have more maturity, so you can be more be a communicant. You can communicate with your mother, and that's another area that can be a help. So I hope that gives you a little bit of insight. And really, for me, just don't make your mother worry. Okay, don't give her problems. And that way, if she thinks that she has a wonderful child, then that really means a lot. That takes care of a lot of things. Okay, and I guess here's the other question. And the other question is, if you had been separated long enough and you are ready to get into a new relationship, well, how are you going to handle this? Now, this is more of a very complicated issue. Because in the first place, I know that in the Philippines, divorce is not legalized, or so what's going on there, and so you have to really think into consideration what does the church say about it, because remember, you become part of the community. And so my opinion on this one is really pray about it like you won't believe. Pray and pray and pray about it and ask God for guidance. But the other thing that I would strongly recommend is communicate this person or this relationship. If you are getting into it, communicate it to your child, because it's important that the child are kind of, don't hide it from your children. Talk to them, ask your children, well, what do you think of this guy? What do you think of me, getting ready to be in a relationship? Are you okay with that? And then if there are talk about it, weigh the pros and the cons. In that way, that will avoid farther along. If the relationship continues, then if you have somehow ironed out a lot of stuff already, then I think it will be a better way to handle it, rather than if you don't talk about it. And no matter how difficult the situation, no matter how awkward it is, no matter how maybe you're not sure on how to handle it, it's always good. It's always the best way to communicate. Always talk, always ask questions, because that's the only way you can find out what your kids are thinking about it. And it also depends on the ages of your children. If they are already grown up, and they're on their own, then it's a lot, I guess it's a lot, you have less risk. But if you have young children, and there's a lot more stress involved in that, because now you are talking about future stepfathers or other things, and that's another complex dynamics. So again, pray a lot, pray about it, pray for guidance, seek counsel. Do not be an island, do not isolate yourself. It's better that you do things openly. That way you will get good advice from different kinds of people. And then also with your children, communicate these things with your kids. I think that will be one way to, 3 ways. Those are the 3 ways that I think will help you process this new thing in your life. And good luck. Okay. All right. Is there anything else? Or that's it? Okay, so let's dive in. What we have done so far, again, they are able through life. And we had been here in our journey. And it's, think about it. It's already end of July and the year is almost over, right? So it's like if you take a journey, we had been traveling in life just this year alone. Where did the time go? And so sometimes we don't know, like, for example, if you're in a railroad track, where did the time go? And you don't know what lies across the bend, but you are in the journey. And so the things that we're talking about are just really, hopefully, are tools that can help you navigate through this season in your life, in your journey. And just a little bit of recap here. We have done reclaiming your identity and single moms in the Bible, unpacking the baggage of emotion. We have dealt with it a little bit. And then what about the kids? And today, our last one is able ways to take care of you. And again, I would just like to say that reviewing this while listening to the video back, I feel like, it's like we're just scratching the surface, because these topics are very deep and broad. And so I'm trying to just touch a little bit of this topic. So anyway, okay. So life, this should be, oops, that's wrong there. It should be session 5, the taking care of you. And our key memory verse here is Proverbs 4:23. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Or I think the King James version of that is, keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Now, as mothers, we are like mother hens. We protect our young, we take care of them, and we are very protective, and we can give our lives for our children. And so I think of it as, the mother hen syndrome. And before anything else happens to your kids, well, you have to take care of them first. You probably have heard of stories when there is a fire, and then a mother hen is discovered burned, and yet under her wings are the chicks that are still alive. So that's what, especially for single moms. And you notice that with hens, there are no roosters around. It's always just the mother hen, okay? And no wonder Jesus used the mother hen as a symbol. When he said, overlooking Jerusalem, he said, "Oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, how I would have wanted God to gather you under my wings like a hen." And that is a very very meaningful image of how God really wants to take care of us. Well, I was a mother, and I was a mother hen for a long time, and I had 3 kids, and these were all 3 boys, and they were, at the time that I became single, the first one was 10, and then the second one was 9, and the baby, the one who spoke the other day, was 5. Now, I would like to just say a little bit about my middle son. See, the middle son was born with a disability, and so he is disabled, and he is now 32 years old, but he is still like a 3-month-old. Wheelchair, does not talk, the whole thing. Truly disabled child. And I remember when I took him to the doctor, I had no idea what was going on when he was born. I thought everything was fine. But anyway, as the symptoms continued to show, finally took him to a neurologist. And I remember what the neurologist told me. And he said, he's going to need a lot of care. That's what he said. And he said, looked at me and said, but life is precious, and it is also resilient. Then, you know what? I was thinking about what resiliency is. What is resilient? And it was after the years of experience. Like I said, he's now 32, and 32, and he's still alive. He's still the same. He's still on wheelchair, and he's still being fed and everything else. He has not progressed from the function of almost like 3 or 4 months old, but he's still alive. So is this child resilient? So all through the years that I was taking care of this disabled child, I have learned a few things about what resiliency is, because I couldn't forget what the pediatrician, that neurologist, said to me. So resilience. And it makes me think of the mother hen again. And if you, I'm looking at this picture of this really determined eyes, and you don't want to be around a hen who just had chicks, right? And who just had hatched her eggs. And I got some quotes here. Resilience, hold on, sorry. What is resilience? Resilience means knowing how to cope in spite of setbacks or barriers or limited resources. Resilience is measured of how much you want something and how much you are willing and able to overcome obstacles to get it. And resilience has to do with your emotional strength. So those are the three sort of definitions that I gathered about resiliency. And I think actually I messaged my brother to find out what resiliency in Tagalog is, and he said matatag, hindi natitinag. So that's the Tagalog. I have already forgotten the word for it. So, okay, well, resilience is all about being able to overcome the unexpected. Sustainability is about survival, and the goal of resilience is to thrive. Now let's think about that for a minute. The goal of resilience is to thrive. Remember when we first talked about identity, of how God made a special thing for Eve, that Ezer? And I think that everyone, man and woman, Adam and Eve, were given this ability of resiliency by God so that we are able to cope with situations. Now, somebody messaged me about having 6 kids, and was able to raise the 6 children as a single mom. And that is just awesome. And how do you do that except if you have that, that resiliency? And so I found out, however, in the course of time while taking care of this child that has disability, I find out that, resiliency is not self-supporting. Sure, God has endowed in us genetically that ability or that strength to cope with anything. But there are times when you would want to give up. You would be so exhausted with so much demand, especially for single moms, that sometimes you just want to give up on it because you get very tired. And so I was able to, in the course of time of raising my kids as a single mom, I was able to figure out that we need something to keep nurturing our resiliency, because as what the other definition said, it is about emotional strength. We know we need to take care of our kids, but sometimes when your emotion is depleted, then you feel that you don't have the strength to carry on. So I was able to kind of develop at least 4 things, and I sort of put it in the doable ways to keep you resilient. And I like to do things in a sort of acronym, just to be able to easily put things together and remember. And so I thought of A for able. The A is to acquire knowledge, and B is to build your network, L is to lean on your faith, and E is to enable yourself. So let me go with that one at a time. Okay, so let's start with acquire knowledge. It is very important that you don't stay to where you are. And to acquire knowledge, there was this book way back in 1940 that was published, and this author said there are 14 ways to acquire knowledge. And I kind of put it here on this slide. You practice what you do, you acquire knowledge, you ask, you desire something, that's how you get knowledge, and you get it from yourself because you're already given ability and talents that you are able to get knowledge, and or you walk around it, you try to discover what it is. Experimenting is one way how to acquire knowledge, and another way is teach what you know, and the more knowledgeable you become. Of course, reading, you write, you listen, observe, put things in order, defining, and reasoning. These are, according to this, I forgot the author, according to him, these are the simple, basic 14 ways to acquire knowledge. And it is very important because without knowledge, what happens? You will rot. You will stay in your ignorant life, and you are not going to improve if you just stay there. And so for me now, let me go back to raising my disabled child. At the time, I didn't know what he had, and nobody knew what was going on. He had seizures and everything, but it didn't stop me from asking questions, asking people, reading books, and knowing at least what to expect and what to do, what not to do regarding certain situations. So basically, when you have a certain knowledge, then it equips you to be able to continue on and have more resiliency if you have some knowledge. Then the next thing is build your network. For B is build your network. That means, we're not an island. You need help. I need help. Everybody needs to help each other. If you're a single mom, you need help. Don't be embarrassed to ask for help. And one thing that is really good in the Philippines is we have this bayanihan spirit where your neighbors help you, your members of the church help each other. It is just part of the culture. Now, over here in the United States, it's much more independent, and more individualized. I mean, I've been living in this house for 20 years, and I think I haven't been able to go to my neighbor's house probably only 3 times. And so there is very little interaction because of this individuality and all that, but not in the Philippines. So I think you are blessed. I mean, as a people, we are blessed with that ability and that community spirit, because single moms, you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to be ashamed, or you don't have to be embarrassed that you need help or that you need assistance. It's okay to do that. And remember what we have learned about the woman that had no oil. What did she do? She went out to the neighbors and asked for the empty vessels that she can find. And that way, by doing that, she was not embarrassed to tell her son. So you go to all the neighbors and get all the pots that you can find. And then that way, they were able to survive the famine, and the miracle happened. So I think, I really think that this is very important to build your networking. It's not just about the workforce, but even in your home, your immediate family, even your children, it's good that they have friends. And well, of course, the other thing is everybody there is an aunt, so it's just a nice thing to have. It's a nice thing to have. And I'm just happy that our culture, the Filipino culture, has that camaraderie spirit. And then the next one is lean on your faith. I need not elaborate on this because trusting in God changes everything. And I think, I believe I'm speaking to Christians. And so for me to elaborate on this, maybe I need not, because we all know that God is in charge. And so when you lean on God, and so then that keeps you, that builds your resiliency. It continues to add to your gas tank, so to speak, your emotional tank for resiliency. And without faith, I cannot even imagine what do people do that don't believe in God? How do they cope with life? You know, it's almost impossible to imagine how they're even faring when they don't know who to pray for, or whatever. There's no faith, no hope. It's probably a very miserable life. So lean on your faith is really important. And when you do that, then God will continue to replenish your supply for resiliency, in that you are able to cope with whatever happenings in your life for that day. Now, the last one, the letter E, is enabling yourself, which means really taking care of you. Now, I have this picture because I think that many of you had, when you travel either by boat or by plane, they always have this safety thing. The stewardess would tell you what to do with the mask and the flotation device and everything. But there is always one thing that I heard every time, and they would say, do not assist anyone until you are done with yourself. Assist yourself first. Put everything on yourself first before you help others. And that really makes sense, because how can you even keep someone afloat if you are sinking yourself? Okay, so enabling yourself is the only way for you to be able to take care of others more, and especially mothers. If you deplete yourself and you get sick, and what happens then the more there is a lack in the house, lack in the family unit. So how do you enable yourself? Well, there is a verse that I don't think we usually think about, and that is found in Matthew 22:39. And it says, love your neighbor as yourself. Now, the tendency is, the focus is love your neighbor. And oftentimes we forget the other part of the sentence, as yourself. Now, you can say, love your neighbor, love yourself. But here's the question. Well, how do you love yourself? And as I was pondering about this, I kind of thought of the parable of the 10 virgins. Now, you know the story, so this may be a little bit far-fetched, but we know that the story is about, the parables are supposed to talk about spiritual things, symbol of spiritual things. And we know the spiritual implication of this parable. But for now, just for this presentation, I would just like to just imagine it literally. Just literally, okay? So let's set aside the spiritual gist on it, but let's just imagine and the literal way that it was presented in the Bible. So we have these 10 girls. They were going to a wedding, and so all of them were mentally prepared. They were physically dressed to the occasion, and they carried with them what they needed. The oil, and the lamp. And so they were, to a certain, all of them were able. They enabled themselves mentally, physically, and socially, because they were all friends. So they were all together. There's one thing that I'd like you to think about here. In the story, it does not say that they are going to go to a brand Sabbath school. They were not going to evangelism. They were going to a party. They were going to a wedding. They're going to have fun. And so here they are. They were waiting. And then, as you know how the story unfolded, well, the oil ran out because they were waiting for the bridegroom, who they did not know what time he will be arriving. But when he arrived, the 5 virgins that did not have oil cannot trim their lamps anymore. And what did they do? They were asking for oil from those who had spare oil that they brought with them. And here is the thing. The 5 who had extra oil did not give the other 5 anything. Now you might say, they were so selfish. They did not help. They did not share what they have. And I think this is the point where sometimes enabling yourself first is when you have no guilt about it. I call it the self-centeredness without guilt. And so because they enable themselves, they cannot share what they have to those who lacked. And those who left, they wanted to go and, buy some oil somewhere, and probably in Naga or in Panikwason. But of course, when they come back, the door was shut. And that's how I think of enabling. Are you able to attend to yourself also? Not in a selfish way, but because you have a goal. And your goal and your purpose is more important, that you don't want to miss out. You don't want to miss out on the purpose that you're supposed to do. And so you enable yourself, and this is it. This is for me. I'm taking care of myself here. I'm enabling myself because I have a purpose. I need to be there. I have a job to do, and I'm going to have fun in that party. And strangely, we don't think of the 5 virgins as the selfish 5 virgins. We call them the 5 wise virgins. Isn't it? They are commended for being wise. They are not criticized for not sharing. They were commended as wise because they enabled themselves, and that way they were able to fulfill the purpose that God wanted them to do. And they were happy. They went to the party joyfully, enjoyed the whole evening, singing, dancing. They had a lot of fun. And that's, like I said, that is one way how I would kind of think about it. While the others, of course, who lacked little more of enabling themselves ahead of time, they missed out. They were not in the party. It is very important, I believe, that one way to enable ourselves is, let's hear it from King Solomon. Here's what he said. So I commend the enjoyment of life, because there is nothing better for a person under the sun than to eat and drink and be glad. Then joy will accompany them in their toil all the days of the life God has given them under the sun. This is like, enjoy what you can in life. It's okay to eat and drink and be glad and have enjoyment, because this is also come from God. God wants you and me to enjoy what He has created. And mothers, we tend to forget that area of enabling ourselves and putting some joy in our hearts just for our own sake, not because you're a mother, not because of whatever else, but just because of you, just because of who you are. And there's another text from Ecclesiastes, and I think it's a person can do nothing better than to eat and drink and find satisfaction in their own toil. This too, I see, is from the hand of God. Now, how many times have you taken the time to be satisfied with your own work and just sit back and relax and enjoy yourself? I have a few questions for you. What can you do to take care of you? Can you set aside 15 minutes a day, 1 hour a week, 1 day in a month, 1 weekend in a quarter, or 1 week in a year? Can you set that aside to do something that you enjoy. That's part of the enabling yourself. Because remember, resiliency has something to do with emotional strength. And if your heart is sapped, de-energized by all these realities, sadness, anger, worry, fear, then your resiliency will be a little bit depleted. And it's important that we try to do something to replenish what God has given, the supply in our heart, by doing things that will nurture your heart. What are the things that you like to do? What are the things that make you happy? How about surrounding yourself with beauty? Maybe create or plant a garden, do a manicure and pedicure, put on makeup and buy yourself maybe a new dress once in a while. Eat your favorite food and go out for a walk, or just be by yourself and take time out. Those things that will nurture your heart, just taking a break and taking rest. And that is important in nurturing your heart. Otherwise, all the other things will just take over, and one day you'll find yourself just so discouraged and feeling hopeless, and your resiliency is sapped. And just like this, I saw this figure here. A single mom, there is so many things inside you. You have a lot of qualities, you have a lot of things about you, and your heart is full. So, back to Proverbs 4:23. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. And the only way, and again, just turning your mind back, whoever is the center of your whoever is in your heart will dictate the direction or the condition of your heart. I have the song that I really like. I don't know if this will be able to be played, that He will carry you through. And think about it. I don't know if you would be able to play it, but if not, it is a song by a group called Enthusiasmus, and the title is He Will Carry You Through. And this is something that can, whatever you are, no matter how big the mountain, no matter how the storm is, no matter whatever is happening, God will carry you through. And throughout our presentation, that is really the main thrust that I would like to leave with you, and that God will carry you through in any way, anywhere in your journey as a single mom. And may God bless, and I hope that you all will continue to be blessed in your journey, because God is ever present in your life.
Tayo po'y manalangin. Purihin ka, Panginoon, sa gabing ito. Maraming salamat po sa panghuling paksang tinalakay sa gabing ito. Nawa po'y gabayan kami ng banal na Espiritu upang aming magamit ito sa tamang pangangalaga sa aming mga sarili bilang mga lingkod ninyo sa aming sariling mga tahanan, sa church at sa community. Maraming salamat po sa lahat na sumubaybay, lalo't higit ang mga single moms. Nawa po nagsilbing inspirasyon ang lahat ng ito sa patuloy na pagsalunga sa mga hamon ng buhay. Umaasa po kami, Ama, nasasamahan ninyo kaming lahat sa mga kababaihan sa tuwi-tuwi na, lalo't higit ang mga single moms. Salamat po sa pagdinig sa aming samot pasasalamat, alang-alang sa matamis at makapangyarihang pangalan ng aming Panginoong si Jesus. Amen.